One of the logical conclusions of the concept of hashgacha pratis, of specific divine providence, is that every event that happens to us, every place we go, every encounter, has to be part of a broader message for our lives. If this is true in general, it's so much more true about the things we study, the Torah we study. Now, there is the Torah that we study as a people. In other words, the Torah portion of the week, the time of the year we're in, or if we're all studying Rambam at a particular time, etc. Then this has a message, because it's by divine providence that this is what the Jewish people are studying then. But this is even true on an individual level. If there's something that I'm learning that I happen to have come across, it's not just an interesting fact, but maybe it has a message for what is taking place in my life or in the world around you, or how to relate to matters of this world. And so there was something I just studied this week with one of my son-in-laws, and I would like to share it. It says, the Talmud tells us in Tractate Avodah Zarah that in the transition between the Greek power to Roman power, there was a time that Rome was battling Greece, and they had 32 battles, and it was inconclusive. There was no victor. And then Rome took on Israel, the Jewish people, to be their partners, and they said to the Jewish people that we're going to be equal partners. One is going to have the emperor, the other is going to have the governor, but we'll be equal partners. And the Jews went along with that, and then they became the dominant power. Rome did, and they kept their promise to us for 26 years. Afterwards, they stopped, and therefore they became the leading power. And it's interesting also that the way they used Israel against the Greeks was that they said to the Greeks, it was more of a moral, legal argument. And they sent to them, they said, look, if you have a pearl and you have a gem, which is more powerful? What should take precedent, the pearl or the gem? And they said, the gem. Well, if you have a gem and I think it sounds like an opal, which is more powerful? And they said, the opal. And if you have the opal and you have a Sefer Torah, which is more powerful? They said, the Sefer Torah. That's what they're discussing. What's more powerful, the Bible, the Sefer Torah? Well, we have the Sefer Torah with us now. We have the Jewish people. No matter which one of the gemstones you are, the Jewish people should be over you. And that convinced them, it seems like, and created the situation where the Romans were now taking control, unfortunately, and it lasted for 26 years, which is the numeric value of Hashem's name. And afterwards, they went back on their promise, and they controlled, and they took control. And then, of course, subjugated us and made us suffer, etc., for many years. So what I learned from here is 2 points. Number one is that Rome could not take control of their fight without having the Jewish people with it. It seems like almost what's going on over here in America and Iran, where there's a constant tit for tat and shooting in the ships and shooting in Iran, and there is no victory. There are battles that are not being victorious. At the same time, it looks like Israel's on the side. They're saying to Israel, you stay out of it. Well, when America will take Israel as their partner, maybe that's when we'll see the total victory, the final total victory and regime change through the people of Iran, because Israel had the plan to support the people by drones and other ways of being their protection over the IRGC. But it's only when America will take Israel on board that possibly they'll have the full victory. The second lesson, and maybe more important lesson, is that after the 26 years, that you couldn't trust them anymore. And what that says here is, in every situation, every circumstance that Israel finds itself, it cannot give over its security even to the most friendly nation. It cannot risk itself and risk their own security, even to the most friendly nation, because you don't know what happens 26 years later. You don't know who's president, you don't know who's in charge. And this relates to three different theaters. Number one, in Lebanon. To me, it makes no sense that Israel has to leave parts of southern Lebanon in order to and to have pilot zones to prove that Lebanon could get rid of Hezbollah. They have the entire country to prove they can get rid of Hezbollah. The entire country of Lebanon, north of where Israel is, has Hezbollah stationed there. And if the Lebanese government is strong enough and the Lebanese army is strong enough to get rid of Hezbollah, do it everywhere. It's not just going to be near Israel they have to get rid of Hezbollah, you have to get rid of them everywhere. For Israel to remove themselves from places which puts them in a security risk makes no sense. That's number one. Number two, there's discussion of possibly having U.S. bases within Israel or near Gaza even. Well, you can't look at the situation now. You don't know what's going to be in the future. And will that American presence limit Israel's ability to take action against terrorists in the future? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And lastly, we have this situation with giving nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. And even if they were to join the Abraham Accords, who is joining? A monarchy, whose power, as the Rebbe once said to someone, the power in Saudi Arabia is in the hands of a few dozen people. And it's only a matter of time where the people don't accept it anymore. And when the people don't accept it anymore, they overthrow the government. And now they have nuclear technology with possibly a Muslim Brotherhood kind of group of people. So one always has to look not only for today, we don't know what the future holds. Therefore, the only way to deal with situations is to secure yourself. In other words, of course you want to make deals if you can. You make a deal with the UAE, it's great, wonderful. You're not endangering yourself in those deals. You can make deals that doesn't put you in risk. But anytime you risk something, you have to always consider the possibility of it going sour, because that's what happens. Oslo went sour, this engagement of Gaza went sour. That's a risk that Israel took, that the Torah clearly tells us. The Rebbe had been screaming about this for years. I remember hearing it, how you cannot take these risks, because these risks endanger our lives. And look, the Jewish people in the time of the Second Temple took a risk to go in together with Rome against Greece. And where did that leave them? Ultimately, the destruction of the temple that we commemorated just yesterday. The Second Temple was destroyed by the Romans, and then the terrible the Beitar uprising that was put down by the Romans in a most savage way, and the total destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans. All this happens because we invited them in. We took a risk, and sometimes, well, these risks are not worth taking. We have to do what we can. We have to obviously try to make the deals that we can, but always looking at the possibility of not taking risks and to endanger ourselves.